Hey everyone, I'm Lego aka Legoli Flash, and this is a 3-part series on some amazing one-shot glaive builds using Lubrae's Ruin. Today's build is the Gunpowder Glaive, and I chose this one to go first because it can be used by multiple classes, and quite frankly, it's really fun. I'm having a blast and I can't wait to keep using it for the rest of the season. Before we get into it, I want to be clear that if you've come here just wanting a simple get good with glaives video, you've made a glaive mistake. Okay, I have a 2-year-old now, these things just happen. Anyway, you should think of this series and these builds more like an advanced glaive guide. It's certainly possible that one of them will fit your playstyle, but if you're having trouble hitting your shots or just basic success with a glaive, I highly recommend just slapping on the Enigma, boosting that range to max stats, equip Impulse Amplifier and Unstoppable Force, double glaive targeting mods, and watch this basic training video. It's kind of just Sergeant Johnson yelling at you for 2 minutes, but feedback shows it's actually really helpful for those who don't know how to glaive. So why Lubrae's Ruin? If Enigma's the golden standard, why put yourself through 5 weeks of slaying Rolk to buy red border glaives and then craft it all, especially if you're mainly a PvP player and you're having to deal with LFG? Well, this is why. And this. Oh yeah, and this. And I don't know about you, but one of the biggest draws that keeps me coming back to Destiny is creating unique builds and game loops that leave your opponents wondering what the heck just happened. And if you're good enough with the glaive, these builds might just elevate a style that you were already feeling good about. So what really makes these builds work is that 1, Lubrae's Ruin is solar, and 2, it's got some incredible perks that aren't on any other glaive. Today's build focuses on the Swashbuckler perk and combines it with Becoming Radiant in Solar 3.0. I call it the Gunpowder Glaive. The name implies only hunters, but as I mentioned, I found Warlocks to be really effective as well. You can do it on a Titan, but you have to go out of your way to make it work, and we'll get into that. So what is it? What is it that we're making work? It is combining the base damage of the glaive, 131, multiplied by the Swashbuckler times 5, a 33% buff, multiplied by Becoming Radiant, thanks to Solar 3.0 fragments, which is 10%, making your total damage output 191, allowing you to one-shot anything 5 Resil or below. And we do it all by doing one simple thing, a melee kill. Every solar class now has Ember of Torches, a fragment that makes you and your allies radiant on a powered solar melee hit. Now most people look at Swashbuckler on a glaive and think, okay, that's perfect, I can melee with the glaive, get the extra damage and go. But 1, that's not enough alone to one-shot an enemy. You need to be radiant and your glaive melee does not count for Ember of Torches. And 2, as I mentioned in basic training, relying on glaive melee gets you killed. So you can follow up with a melee if you're in a fight, shooting and shielding, but it might get a little complicated to get yourself radiant for the full loop and get you those one-hit kills. So here's why hunters and warlocks are great for this: ranged melees. Not just range melees, but range melees that allow you to hot swap to your glaive to proc Swashbuckler times 5. I thought this would be difficult, but it really isn't. As long as they weren't right in front of me, I always swapped in time. So let's dig into the classes. For hunters, any kind of throwing knife will work. So if you're a fan of the Wombo combo with trip mines and proximity knives, that'll work. That said, I love the way my waiting throwing knives felt with Aether's Embrace. Bouncing off walls and getting a kill felt awesome, and there's a lot that happens once you get that knife kill. Here's the loop. First, you become radiant as soon as your knife hits. Then with the knock 'em down aspect, you get your knife back because you got a kill while you were radiant. You hot swap to your glaive before the kill counts, and now you have Swashbuckler times 5 while radiant. You now have 4.5 seconds to one-shot anyone up to 5 Resil. You can make that 6.5 seconds if you use the enhanced version of Swashbuckler. And that's something I found really useful. I don't recommend investing in that until you find out if the playstyle works for you or not, but it was definitely worth it for me and I felt the difference when using it. Now that's great, but here's where the gameplay loop is, where the name comes from and why it's so dang fun to me. The Gunpowder Gambit aspect. Every time you get a solar kill with this aspect, it will create a number of stacks for you. Once you're to 6 stacks, you get a free dynamite grenade that has some pretty substantial damage. You won't get a one-shot with it, but it's still really fun. So here's the loop happening behind your swashbuckler loop. When you get a solar ability kill in PvP, you create 4 stacks of Gunpowder Gambit. After that, you're aiming to one-shot someone with your Radiant Swash ×5 Solar Glaive. This solar kill adds 2 stacks and completes your Gunpowder Gambit. You can then throw that dynamite, let it explode on its own or shoot it, and then you have your next knife to throw, starting the loop all over again. So I'm telling you, it's so much fun. Even if you don't complete the loop, there's so many parts of this build that are so satisfying to accomplish, it makes me want to turn on D2 right now and get back to playing. That's how fun it is. Okay, before continuing with how this build works on the other classes, I just want to take 1 second to say thank you for checking out the video. We've been putting up about a review or guide once a week, and I feel like we're really gaining momentum with this new content. It would mean so much to me if you hit that sub button or left a comment, and if you're already subscribed, and if you're already subbed, just consider sharing this vid with some of your friends or in one of your discords. I really appreciate it. Okay, on to Warlocks. I'll be real, I just hate playing the floof. I really do avoid my Warlock because of the jump. But that said, I also really enjoyed my time with this build on the Warlock. Not only did I enjoy my time with it, but I felt like I played surprisingly well. Like, higher success rate than I should have for never playing Warlock. I'm on console, so I think the nature of people having to look up helped me a lot, but it was still really surprising for me. The basic building blocks are the same for a Warlock as it was for the Hunter. The only difference is that you don't have the one-hit kill potential with your initial Celestial Fire melee. It's not all that bad though. You can kind of play as normal to get your opponent weak before the melee, and playing as a Warlock allowed me to use Heat Rises to take my enemy by surprise to start the loop. So here's what the loop looks like. I would start Heat Rises, optional of course, you could stay on the ground, prime the target to about half health, melee with Celestial Fire and hot swap to the Glaive. Now you're Radiant with Swash 5, just like on Hunter, and you can start your one-shots. Like I said, I was surprisingly successful with this, and it got even better the more I tinkered with it. Here are some things that helped and added to the gameplay loop. 1, if I was a pro, I would have used Icarus Dash more to increase my survival chances after glaive swapping with the melee, but as I said, I'm a poor floofer. And 2, more importantly, I ended up swapping to Traveler's Chosen as my primary. I liked primarying with a hand cannon, but once I started using my Warlock's strengths and sticking to the air, my shots kinda just went nowhere with all the new in-air accuracy stats, even with Icarus. I was also losing my abilities too quickly. Since there wasn't a super fast way to get the melee back on this class versus the Hunters with the instant knives back, I tried Claws of Aramkara for the double melee, but I actually found running without it and double melee kickstart mod on a pair of stasis arms to be a lot faster. Traveler's Chosen fixed both of these problems for me. Super accurate in the air, primed just right, and even if I over-primed and got the kill and held down the trigger for too long, I just ate the Traveler's Chosen stacks from the kill and regen my abilities. The whole thing was super fun, being in the air, taking people by surprise, using Traveler's Chosen to get my abilities back, using the hot swap to get one-shot kills with the glaive. It was really, really fun. For Titans, I tried to make this the best case scenario. I really did. I love my Titan. I actually went back for 2 more nights trying to make this work in different ways, and it can work, but it was so incredibly inconsistent that it's more frustrating than is actually worth it. Maybe if you are just an incredible Titan, you can make this work for you, but here's what happened. Ideally, it would be incredible to strap on your Peregrine Greaves and hot swap to the glaive during a shoulder charge, but at least in my experience, that wasn't possible. That said, here are 2 other ways you can make it work, but they just still didn't feel good. The first way is with your hammer hit. You weaken a target just like the Warlock, but the hammer hit just feels so much harder to hit with than the Warlock Celestial Fire did, and I hardly ever play Warlock. I actually play Titan more, and it felt like I just might as well finish the guy with my primary instead of making it so much harder for myself with the hammer. But the second way is kind of interesting. I really didn't think it would work. This is the one that I had to go back and re-record for because I just kept having ideas rolling around in my mind, and I was like, what if you could hot swap during the Consecration Slam ability, the new one with Solar 3.0? and it actually worked. I saw it on the bottom of my screen. There's so many stats that pop up sometimes depending on what you have running that I was like, oh, it didn't work at first. And then I was like, oh wait, Swashbuckler ×5 is active on this glaive. So that's pretty cool because you can get one-hit kills with it. The problem for me was that it was so inconsistent as to whether or not it would actually count for the glaive or not, so that it would proc swash so that you could make all this happen, that I just felt like it should work and then it wouldn't, or it would work when I didn't expect it to. And there's so many things going on the side of your screen that sometimes it wouldn't pop up till later, so I just had to hope that it was active. The other problem is that sometimes it would just kill everyone, and then I'd have no targets while I got my Radiant Swash ×5 going. I'm not even kidding. This happened the very first game I got into. The very first slam I did, I got a triple kill. And I had Swash ×5, but there was nobody left to kill. So what I'm saying is, it's possible you can do it, but I didn't get any kills with Swash ×5 and Radiant going like I did the other class in like 2 nights of trying this several different ways on a Titan. So ultimately, it just didn't feel worth it to run it on this class. Okay, I think that wraps up the Gunpowder Glaive. Titans, your exclusive build is on the way. I hope it makes up for this one. But before we get to that, we've got another one that involves every single class. So join me next week for the Yeet Machine.
Double down. Yes. 3 down.
You don't want to miss it. This has been Lego, aka Legoli Flash. Visit the channel here for more guides and reviews, and you can also find me on Twitter if you want updates or just to talk more D2. Until next time, GG.